Well, hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Maureen Hurley. I use the she series pronouns, and I'm with Emerson College's Student Transitions and Family Programs Office. And we are delighted to have you here tonight to listen to some of the experiences that our family ambassadors have had with their students here at Emerson College. We absolutely invite you to put in the Q&A any questions you might have, anything you'd like to ask to our panelists, and feel free to ask regional questions because we have several people here from California. We have some people from up the street here at Emerson College. So we're really all over the country. So if you have concerns about what it's like to come from a warm climate, et cetera, we have people who can handle those questions. So thank you again for joining us. I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and to let us know who you are, where you're from, your student's name, and what major they are at Emerson College, as well as what year they are. And we'll just go in the order that I see you on the screen. So we'll go Jill first, then Marty.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I want to congratulate you all for getting into Emerson. It's a great place. My name is Jill Altimus, and I'm a family ambassador, and my daughter's name is Ella. She's a junior, and she's a film major, and we are from Los Angeles, California.
Hi, my name is Martin Middleman. My daughter is Catherine. She is a political communications major with a minor in history. She actually just graduated a semester early this past December. So, and she's gonna be walking down the aisle in a few weeks. Very excited about that. We are pretty local. We are from Franklin, Massachusetts, which is about 30 miles away as the crow flies from Boston. So.
And Lori, and then Matt and Terry.
Hi, I'm Lori Schlafer. My daughter Alyssa is finishing her freshman year. She is in the BFA program for stage and production management. And I am also I'm from Sherman Oaks, a suburb of Los Angeles. And congratulations, everyone.
Hi, I'm Terry Muse, and this is Matt Pasca, my husband, and our son Rainer is finishing up his freshman year as a BFA theater and performance major. And we are on Long Island in New York.
And we were exactly where you were 1 year ago.
Yes.
It's so good to say that, Matt. Thank you. Lynn and then Cindy.
Hi, I'm Lynn Tanksley.
Let's go on to Cindy and we'll come back to Lynn if she gets her Wi-Fi back.
My daughter Phoebe is a first year. She is a political communications major. She's a tour guide as well. She should be finishing up in 27, but she may be graduating early in 26. So that's an option.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Cindy Rosengard. My child is finishing up their junior year. They'll graduate in 2025. They are a VMA major and they have a minor in deaf studies. And we hail from Rhode Island, so just about an hour south of Boston. And congratulations to all of y'all.
Perfect. And Anika.
Good evening, everyone, or good day, wherever you might be in this wonderful world, right? Congratulations and welcome to the Emerson family. My name is Anika Davis. Our daughter matriculated last year. So like someone said earlier, we were exactly where you were. Actually, a video popped up on my phone yesterday where she hit the button to accept her Emerson, her acceptance to Emerson. We're in the Metro Atlanta area. So quite a bit of ways from Emerson, and our daughter, she came in as a creative writing major. So she's working that in tandem with the writing, literature, and publishing major as well, with plans to attend a 4+1 program in the future. So excited to be here with everyone.
Excellent. All right. So the first question I'm going to ask you to share about is one thing about Emerson College that surprised your student? So something they weren't expecting. And anybody who would like to start, just unmute yourself and come on in.
I think that we were expecting that he might choose an enclosed campus in this kind of like, what you see in the movies about a college campus, but he fell in love with not just Emerson as a school, but the fact that it's in the middle of Boston and right across from the Commons. And that kind of city life filled with art and bustling people and diversity was really something that maybe didn't surprise us, but we were really happy that that's what he wanted to choose.
Yeah, within a month or two, he was familiar with the T, and he was riding his bike along the Charles River and going to the Boston Public Library on Sundays. So it's not just with Emerson, you get Boston to fall in love with as well.
Anyone else want to share on that? Okay, we'll go to the next question then. What clubs or activities have your students become involved with during their time on campus? And Jill, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, hi. So kind of going back to the other question too, my daughter she's an introvert, and she's, just kind of shy, and getting to Emerson, there was a lot going on with orientation and stuff. And she really was able to kind of take care of herself and not she didn't do all of the activities because she knew herself. And I think that Emerson really provided a safe space for her to kind of be who she is and not have to do all of the things. And so that I was really proud of her for being able to do that when she got to Emerson, because orientation week can be, it's a lot for some kids. And so that was really cool. So I was really happy for her and not surprised, but that she was really able to take care of herself. But in terms of clubs, her freshman year, she submitted a script to, it's an organization, not a club. It's called Frames Per Second. And it's an outside organization, and she submitted a script, and it actually got chosen. So she got to produce and write and direct a film her freshman year, which was really cool. And it was a great experience for her. She got to be involved in the Emmys the following year for that film. So that was really, really cool for her. What else has she done? Oh yeah, I've noticed though, and for you guys all to know, if your student is having a harder time in the beginning, joining clubs is such a big deal. And if they are film or not film or anything they're interested in, just getting your kids onto a set is a really, really big growing thing that my daughter told me that was great for her, because Emerson's really hands-on, and she's been able to really, get a lot of hands-on experience by putting herself out there, even though she's shy, and getting onto sets. And she's met a lot of really great people that way. So, yeah.
Excellent. Anika.
Yeah.
I can talk about
Good. You happy? Go ahead.
things that my daughter has done. Actually discovered that it's not they're not all elected positions. So, as volunteer, she can do things. And she also discovered you can walk on to the TV news. So you write your script and then you present it. And, as a political communication major, she's getting practice reading a teleprompter, which may be useful. So those are a couple of things that she did, totally brand new, nothing she'd done before.
That's
Yeah.
great. Anika, go ahead.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Our daughter is an only, but she's extremely outgoing. So she wanted to have, the roommates, and I'm sure, Maureen, that question will come up. But one of the things that she's done is when Emerson offers the fairs at the beginning of the year, and they do it, I think, each semester, she's attended. And she's just goes table to table to get information to learn about the various opportunities. So she's joined a variety of cultural clubs, religious clubs. Page Turner Magazine is a way for her, because since, like I said, she's in that creative writing WLP program. It gives her an opportunity to hone her skills and work with upper class students to help her, learn kind of the tricks of the trade. But there is not a shortage. And she actually just came back this past weekend. It's called CPLA. And Maureen, I'm still working on what it stands for, but it's pretty much do you know? Do you remember offhand? It's new for us this semester.
No,
Okay.
try your best.
Okay, so it pretty much what they do is they're learning about public policy and the legal system and so forth and so on. They register students on campus for voting. So thank you, somebody from the crowd. Thank you, Communication, Politics, and Law Association. And the great thing about it, thank you for that assist. I appreciate it. Phoning a friend is always helpful at this time of day. And so being able to join with other, again, students, they just came back from Washington, D.C., where they got to tour the Capitol, Emerson at Washington. I think it's called the Washington Center. So, and she's actually getting course credit for it as well. So those are the types of things. Encourage your student to join a club and they may not be outgoing, but get out, put themselves out there. They'll meet some amazing students and classmates as well. Thank you, Maureen.
Also, if I could comment. So my daughter is, like I said before, getting a BFA in stage management and production. Yeah. And so she didn't join any outside clubs, but that group, and if there's anyone out there, there's 10 or 12 of you, but they have their own, it's not a Greek, it's not a club, but it's like a combination of all of that. And she became very involved in that. And I would encourage if of the other majors have that, or if you're in stage and production management, that you look into that club, because she has really put herself into that and has gotten a lot out of it.
Excellent.
Go ahead. I think it's good to know also that there are so many different layers and levels of organizations and opportunities. I think sometimes people think it's just the first bunch that have auditions and then there's no other opportunities. Our son, his very first semester, went to some callbacks and didn't get into those first organizations, but then kept throwing himself out there and wound up in two student films first semester, and then another student film the second semester. He found the screenwriting group, Spec. He found the poetry project and wound up winning one of their poetry slams. And so there's so many different things going on at so many different levels. So if you just keep your eyes open, even if there's one kind of round that doesn't go the way you'd like, there are all these other available opportunities coming into your inbox all the time. Your student will have a lot of emails and a lot of communication from different opportunities.
Really great advice. Marty, do you want to share about what your daughter became involved with?
Sure. She's she's a political communications major, as I mentioned before. And so she's some of the more formal clubs she's been involved in is the polling club. And I'm sure she's been in other clubs, but she doesn't keep me up to date on all those. And she back during high school, middle school, she loved musical theater, but she didn't want to major in that, but she wanted the opportunity to try. So she did the open auditions. It's very competitive because there's a lot of majors there who that's what they want to do. So somehow she got into one of the MTS productions. We're not quite sure how, but she did, and she did great. Outside of that, there's she made a good circle of friends. Some are VMA majors. They have film projects. They have photography sessions. They have other things. So there's not even a club. It's just like working on other fellow students' projects that helped her creative outlet. So like I said, it's not just clubs, it's a long spectrum of tinier things. So
Cindy?
I was sitting here listening to everyone else and thinking, like, one of my concerns has always been that my child has not fallen far from me and is very overcommitted. I don't know how they sleep and eat and get all their schoolwork done, but the short list of some of the things that they're involved with they are part of the DKA fraternity. They have a leadership role in that. They have a radio show that they do every week on WECB, I think it's called. And they have worked on, I'm going to say, at least half a dozen film crews. They are They do photography for some of the publications. They work on Musicians Wanted, which is one of the programs at Emerson. They have also done like been sort of like person on the street doing interviews for the news program as well. And I mean, I think that there is so much going on for them that they actually have decided not to do their semester over in Los Angeles next year because they don't want to miss out on the things that they have already committed to and are excited about. And they're going to be working on their own sort of documentary this summer as well. So there's a lot of opportunities, and hopefully people will encourage their kids, as everyone has said, to check out and see what's available and be persistent about it.
And I really love the fact that you all have expressed that even though your student might be majoring in one thing, they have been involved in things that are outside of what they're actually studying in the classroom. You know, Marty talked about his political comm student, you know, being in several musicals at Emerson, because that's where her talent lies and she loves to do that. So it's wonderful to see the breadth and depth of what the students can do. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions that are coming in. First one is about a semester abroad. Can somebody talk about whether or not their students have gone abroad to one of our programs, and perhaps what that experience has been like? And I think, Marty, we're going to start with you again.
All right, my daughter, her sophomore year, spring semester, did the Castle Well program. Emerson has a castle in the Netherlands, and it's a 90-day semester. She traveled all over Europe, booking her own flights, booking her own hotels. It's hard to tell her she can't do anything after that trip because, she's done all that herself, more than I ever did in college. So you have that to look forward to. But it was a great experience for her. She went all over the place. She had spring. For example, spring break, they had a mandatory trip to Venice, rough. Then after that, they were free to go spring break. They spent a night in Milan. They went to Mallorca, and then for whatever reason, they went to Manchester, England during their spring break. I know the reason is it was to see the Batman movie in English.
Priorities.
And one of the last weekends, she and her friends made a trip to I don't know the town in Denmark, but it's where Lego is headquartered, and they stayed at the Lego house or the Lego hotel, and they were like the only people their age there that weren't working there. So it was a fun experience for them, and they took classes too. So
that is great. And one of the questions was, in what year do students typically go abroad? And for most of the Emerson related travel, they typically are going their sophomore year. And that is simply because the students at Emerson College have a wide range of general education classes that are typically done during the first 2 years. And those are easily fulfilled during a study abroad semester. As you get more involved and more, I'm going to use the word technical, but I think you know what I mean, when they get more specified in their major, it's harder for them to leave and go abroad. So it's typically sophomore year, although not always. There's definitely juniors who go and so forth. Anybody else have a student who's planning to, or go ahead, Jill.
My student went to the castle, same, but she did a summer program. It was cool because it was outside of her major. She did a travel writing program. It was a 6-week program, and they landed at the castle, and they had a bunch of travel. She got to go to Berlin on her own with some friends, and she went to north of France, and they went to Venice, and they hiked the Dolomites, and she studied with a guy named, I think he's head of the creative writing program. His name was Steve, and she learned so much about writing, and it was just completely off her major, which was really cool. She wanted to experience Europe, and saying she was booking her own flights, and it was an amazing experience for her. And I highly recommend it. And she actually, tell me if I'm wrong, Maureen, but I believe she tried to go to the castle for a semester, and she got waitlisted and didn't get in, but she is a film major, and I believe they allow a certain amount of kids per major. And because film is so big, it's harder to go because there's more kids. That's what I thought. She was like fourth or fifth on the waiting list and didn't get to go. So she chose to do the summer program and said, so there's other opportunities if your child wants to do it and doesn't get to. There's tons of other opportunities in other countries and summer programs and, things that they can do. So it was really great for her.
Excellent. And the other big, huge program that we haven't talked about yet is the Emerson Los Angeles campus. There's a campus right in the heart of Hollywood, and approximately 200 students go every semester, and mostly seniors. But again, there's no hard and fast rule. And students from all different majors do spend a semester out at Los Angeles, getting practical experience, getting work experience, internship experience, while taking classes. So it's a wonderful program. And we did have a question here about how were your students' experiences in finding career-related internships? Does anybody have any experience in that? Lynn, go ahead. And I know, Lynn, you keep going in and out a little bit. So if we cut
Sorry.
you off, no, it's not your fault, but go ahead.
So my daughter's a political communication major, and she knew that she wanted to stay in Boston this summer with an internship. And she started reaching out. She got a meeting with the dean of communication, Dean Smith. He said he set up a call with her, and I mean, this is the dean of her school. And so he talked to her, and it was kind of like an interview sort of thing where he's trying to get to know her and figure out what would be good for her. And so he's like, okay, I got some ideas. And then he reaches out to people he knows. She got contacted by a few of them and submitted applications and that sort of thing. She got some really great feedback. She does actually have an internship for this summer with the Office of Economic Development. So she reached out to the dean, but to other people. She went to the Career Center. They were able to help her, hone her resume, get that sort of thing. So it's like everybody she talked to was gunning for her. Like, yes, we want you to be able to accomplish this. So we can help you in any way we can. But I was just amazed that the dean of the school was meeting with her personally.
That's lovely. Great story. Thanks, Lynn. Anybody else have career-related connections or internships that their students have made? Lori.
Well, I can tell you that I guess they call it the Emerson Mafia, at least in Los Angeles, is strong. And Alyssa also did hook up and do that. There was some resume class that was offered online, I think, and she did that, and that was great. And she did meet with her advisors, but she sent out the resumes that she developed, and somebody that we both know who's in production loves Emerson students and has an Emerson person on staff there, and reached back out to Alyssa strictly because she goes to Emerson and has offered her work in the summer in it's in the field of stage management. So she's been able to use the connections that Emerson students keep when they leave the school, which was a big pull also. The alumni really seem to really want to help other alumni and other students.
Right. So there is the Mafia, Emerson Mafia Facebook group, and it does seem to be one of the only reasons some of our students join Facebook is to join that Emerson Mafia group. But we have a non-Facebook affiliated group called Emerge, and the students can find out through Emerge connections with alums, Emerson alums, and there are over 7,000 alums already registered, and the program's only about a year and a half old, so I think it's really wonderful that it has already spread. And students can find pretty much, anybody in any field. And these are folks that are inviting upper class and first and second year students to contact them with questions about what it's like to be in the field. So it's really great. All right. Have any of your students played a sport at Emerson? Do we have any of I don't think we have any of our sports team family ambassadors here tonight. But we are able to let you know that we are a Division III, but very wonderful league of students, wonderful league of teams that we play against. And there's a lot of passion around the athletic department that has been growing. We have a brand new director of the athletics, and she's brought a little spark and life into our programs. And I don't know if anybody else has any experience with that. Nope, sorry, not on this particular panel. All right. I love this question. What's the best advice you would give for parents to help in preparing their students for college life at Emerson? This sounds like a question I would have written. So thank you very much for submitting that question. And I'm gonna start with Anika.
That's a very thoughtful question. I think one of the things would be that, gosh, be yourself, right? When you're in this environment, especially for us, because we're far, away from home, or even if we were local, I'm very fortunate. One of my very good college friends, she lives 10 minutes away in Milton. So my daughter can just call and say, hey, Auntie Grace, can you come help me? And, we have that. But that said, it's just to be herself, and she'll find her people. Your child will find their people, their group of friends who they can hang out with and they're comfortable with. It may not happen overnight, but just continuing to be themselves, and also to explore, that this is the time of exploration. Like Maureen said earlier, that, many of our students are in clubs and activities that don't necessarily, you wouldn't think they do with their majors. Just explore. What our daughter, she meets regularly with her advisor. Like when she found out about the program at the Washington Center, and then we're looking at the James Baldwin Writing Colony, all these different programs, and really getting a plan for what it is. And when you find something new, how does that serve you? So just being open to opportunity, I think, would be the biggest thing for us.
That's
Thank
a
you.
great message. Cindy.
Gosh, I'm trying to think of what sort of nugget of advice I would offer. I chose to go to a school that was much more, it was also in a city, but it was in a much smaller city. And so in a lot of ways, I wasn't prepared for the experience of an urban campus. And I've sort of been following along with my child on exploring and getting to know Boston in a way that I never did before. And that just sort of came naturally to them. But maybe that wouldn't come naturally to everybody. So similar to what Anika is saying, I think being, sort of having an adventuresome spirit and being willing to explore both what Emerson has to offer and what Boston has to offer more broadly would be kind of maybe my advice.
Excellent. Matt and Terry.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I've taught high school seniors for 27 years. So this is something we spend a lot of time talking about. So to watch my own kid go into the freshman year and see what the discrepancies might be between the conversations we have in the high school classroom and what he was experiencing. There weren't that many, but I think one thing I would say is just communication. Just keep lines of communication open, and that means self-advocacy. The people at Emerson, the adults at Emerson, are so invested in helping the students and being there for the students, whether they're having a technical problem, an emotional struggle, some sort of convergence of a lot of different issues at once, whether it's academic or in terms of residential. Everyone is there to help them, but if no one knows what issues you are running into, no one can help. And if, maybe not every student communicates as much as our guy does with us. Sometimes we're like, okay, are you doing some other things? But at least communicate with the people around you, your RA. And if the RA on your floor isn't available, go to an RA on another floor.
Yep.
And
We had to ask him to advocate for himself a few times, which he did. And
Yep.
every time we were met with people at Emerson who could scoop him up. Like he's in both the honors program and a BFA program. Those two programs are very intense programs. And sometimes it's like figuring out what to register for. We didn't know how those overlaps were going to work in scheduling. We said, go talk to somebody at registration, go talk to an advisor. So communication is really important. And I think one of the last things I would say is there's so much at Emerson to do. Be careful of overscheduling yourself. I was listening to Cindy talk about her daughter. Kudos to your kiddo. But I do think it's good to try out a bunch of things, but eventually it's good to settle on knowing that you can do all the things at Emerson, but not all at one time. So maybe pick a few things the first time, give yourself a gentle landing your first semester, pick maybe 2 things you love to balance your courses and this new life. And then maybe you can expand out your circle of things you try after that, because overscheduling sometimes can make a kid feel overwhelmed in a completely new environment.
Jill or Marty wanna?
I'll go. Wear layers. You don't need a super parka. It does get cold, but it also could be cold and warm in the same day. And just go to all college kids is practice doing your own laundry. Know how to separate your whites and your colors and all that. My daughter, she's been doing that since middle school anyway, so that wasn't really a concern. She had to help a good number of her friends how to do laundry her freshman year. So she didn't do it. She just helped them through the process. And I think, if you're going to Emerson, it's because you chose chose to be in a city setting. So and if you're not from a city setting, just be open to it. I mean, it's a new adventure. I know we're out in the suburbs. My daughter, she looked at a traditional college campus and it wasn't for her. And she saw Emerson and right in the heart of the city. And that really excited her. And she didn't know that until she visited. So it's, just get the kids ready for practical everyday living. I think that's a good piece of advice.
Love that advice. Jill?
You guys have covered a lot of things I would have said already. Coming from California, for me, I was one of those parents that was really worried about the dorm and all the things and all the getting the room set up. And I think I was using that as just my way of dealing with the fact that my kid was leaving, and trying to really just focus on that. She was shooting a film before she went. She wasn't even thinking about that stuff. And I was. So I would say, it's all going to work out. Come with the bare minimum, because the more stuff you come with, the more stressful it is. And I got to kind of learn that the hard way. It was different. It was during COVID when we got to go and we got to send all this stuff to the room. And I got into the room and I said, oh my God, there was just so much stuff, and we didn't need to do that. Like, Boston's a city, they can get anything they need when they get there. Just really keep it simple and stay focused more on just supporting them, listening to them. It's hard. It's a big transition, especially if it's your first kid. Ella was my first daughter leaving for college. I have another one going now, but it's different this time. But just really let them know you're there for them, but listen, don't check in with them too much. You want to check in with them, but you also want them to kind of find their way. And I think my daughter really has been able to find her way and grow up a lot in the last 3 years. And she has her own apartment this year. And she was a kid that couldn't take the train by herself. And we grew up in LA, you know, and now she's taking me on the train, showing me where to go. She's really, really grown up a lot. And it's just, they kind of have to falter and fail a little bit without you there for them to learn. And I think that, you know, just trust them, because they're going to figure it out. And Emerson's a really great place, and there's so much support for them. So that's been our experience so far.
That's so wonderful. I would just add to that a couple of more practical things like Marty was describing. Your students should know what insurance they have, what health insurance they have. They should take a photo of a card that has that number on it, because, you know, if they ever need to go to urgent care with an ear infection on a, you know, Saturday night, they're going to want that information. So I would say take photos of all the important documents, because they always have their phones. So passports, all of that all comes in handy for students to understand what their own documents are all about. So, and here's a really hard one. You have to give up the Social Security card. And I know that's a really hard thing for parents. Like when I gave it over to my daughter, I'm like, you really have to hold on to this. This is not something you can, you know, I know you need it to get a job, but I really need you to hold on to this. And luckily she didn't lose it. But, you know, I had backup photos of it just in case. So anyway, those are the practicalities. Our last question that I'm going to give each of you a chance to answer is, my student is still weighing which school to attend. What tipped your student into making the decision to attend Emerson? Another really great question. These folks who are in our audience today really might be family ambassadors of the future. They're so wise asking these great questions. So Lynn, we'll start with you if you don't mind.
Okay, well, my daughter was in love with Boston before Emerson. She had visited a few times, and she applied to a number of schools in the Boston area, but and she loves the urban out. She's like, Boston College, that's out in the suburbs. No. I was like, that's not really the suburbs, but okay, I can see the difference between Boston College and Emerson. So she really wanted the inner city experience. And political communication, Emerson is one of the top schools in the country for that. And also, this is another point, it's not the most popular major at Emerson. So she's in small classes with her political communication classes. And she, you know, has more attention paid to her because she's at not the most popular major at the school. So for her, that was a big thing. I mean, I think GW and DC was one of her other things, but she would have been one of so many there. So anyway, for her, that was it, which, you know, is very specific. So it may not help your student, but that was our experience.
Thanks so much. Marty?
So where this was during COVID. It was the spring of COVID 2020. It had come down to 2 schools. And it was the end of May, I think it was end of May, right? When we had to just, you know, pick and choose. So she reached out to both schools. The political science department at a certain school in New York City responded by sending a link to a PDF of the course catalog. And Emerson, they had the political communications department had a live session with prospective students, and it was very, very personalized and very, you know, felt like it was one-on-one. So that pretty much sealed it. So.
Thank you so much. Lori?
So Emerson was Alyssa's first choice. We're in Los Angeles. She got accepted into some pretty big schools, and we looked at them, but and I think a lot of the hesitation, because I've seen it in my friends this year, comes from parents and not from the students, and you want your child to go to this big name school rather than the school they should go to. And She loved this program. There's only, like I said, 10 to 12 in her major. She wanted to work. She just wanted to work. They're like, don't let them, stage managers are they're gonna overwork you, you're gonna have a million. She would work every minute of the day on every show if she could. And you can't find that in any other school. They work them right away as freshmen. I mean, she's staying to work the Evvies. She can't work enough. And so she knew the right school for her. We visited the school. It was raining. I can see, I mean, it was just pouring. She loved it. Went to the classes. There wasn't even, I don't even know why I bothered. Like, sure, you want to go see these other schools? She loved it. And when people say, how's she doing? She loves it. She's living her best life. She is exploring Boston. She's going to New York. She's not the same child. I mean, she's always been very independent and outspoken, but I just hope I get her back one day. And I'm proud of her, and I'm really proud of the school. And as you can see, we have these family ambassadors. The school will give you whatever you want, like whatever you make of it. And but I know I'm off topic. There was no other school. I mean, there were schools, but there was no other school. The Emerson alumni, Emerson teachers, Emerson students, it's 110% in for your child. So if you are on the fence, I want to let you know that that's what your child will get when they get here.
Thanks so much, Lori. Cindy.
We also were unable to actually tour schools because it was still during COVID. We sort of stealthily went to campuses and looked at the outside of buildings, but that really didn't give us much of a sense. But I think what probably tipped the scales was a couple of things. One was that my child got really connected up with other prospective Emerson students and kind of arrived here with a cohort of friends already. And I don't think that they were able to do that at some of the other programs that they were looking at. I think the proximity to home, like it's far enough away that they can be pretty independent, but I am just a car ride away, and I have actually driven up to Boston in the evening to drop off a prescription and then drive back home, which is realistic. Some of the other programs that would not have been possible. And my family is also from Massachusetts, so there are other kind of familial backups going on, although they haven't really accessed that very much. And I think the last thing for them is their VMA major. It's one of the top film schools in the country. I think they really felt like it would set them up in a pretty significant way for launching into a successful career in their chosen field. So those are the reasons for their choosing it.
Thanks for sharing. Anika.
So, piggybacking off of what Cindy said a moment ago, one of the things a lot of people have heard about Emerson. I find people, they're like, oh, I know Emerson. And then others who are like, I hadn't heard of Emerson before. And how I describe it is Emerson not only teaches you your crafts, like, many of us went to undergrad to learn whatever it was we studied, but Emerson also helps you get you into the business, so because our daughter was accepted, if I called the name of the school, you would know it, that is very big on writing, so forth and so on. And we just didn't feel home. We didn't go visit, but just from the day we met, like the admissions officer, there wasn't that warm and fuzzy. And we too were looking for that traditional college campus that's within the walls, so forth and so on. But as we continued to meet, the staff, the team, and the classes are small. Emerson has somewhere around 4,500 students. So it's not a huge college campus where you see some schools have like 25,000 undergrads. That wasn't the experience our child wanted. Kudos to those schools. That's not what she was looking for. She had come out of the IB program, and her junior and senior year in high school, there was only 6, 7 kids in her class. So that's what she was accustomed to, and she liked that. So for us, it was about the experience of the school, the class size, but also setting her up for success beyond the undergraduate experience and having those connections. And like a case in point of that is recently, Kevin Hart, the comedian, he had set up a program specifically where he wanted to recruit Emerson students for a program that he was working on, because Emerson has the reputation of being the best and brightest in turning out students, whether they're VMAs, whatever major that they're in. So, and when you look at like the Oscars and you look at the Emmys and you look at the film, when you look behind the scenes, these are Emerson grads. So it's like when we think about big name schools, I think Laura, you were talking about this, and I had really had to stand down, as a parent, and kind of say, okay, we're not gonna, I got to stand back and let my kid work her process. She doesn't have to follow my path, or my husband's path. This is her journey and this is her path. Where's she going to be most happy? And when we got the call last semester, about 2 months in, I love Emerson. I love Boston. I am happy here. As a parent, what else can you say? So that was the main reasons for why we chose Emerson, or our daughter chose Emerson, and we are supporting her in her journey.
I love that. Jill.
Yeah, to go off what Anika said, similar thing. My daughter had a lot of film experience coming in. She got into some big schools, and she knew that right away when she got to Emerson, she was going to be doing work, like touching a camera, because some of these other schools, not going to say names, but you don't touch a camera till your junior year. There are not opportunities for you to actually create and do your own thing. And so that was a big pull for her. She's a very introverted kid, and it was really interesting. I was surprised that she wanted a city campus. You would think a kid that, kind of had just more introverted would want more of a safe kind of campus. I'm going to share something she said. It's a little personal and she probably wouldn't care, but we were sitting in the Common, and it was during COVID also. So we didn't get to tour any of the schools. We went to all the places and walked around and looked in windows and did all that, but we couldn't do a tour. But she was sitting in the Common, and she said, "You know what, Mom, first of all, she felt at home when we got to Boston. She goes, this feels like home." So that was kind of the answer right there. But she also said that she feels like if this is her campus, the Boston Common in that area, she can be alone, but nobody else will know she's alone, and she can be in a city and just sort of feel a little bit more like an adult, but also just be just sort of blend right in. And if she was sitting on, a campus at another school, she got in way in the boonies, and she was sitting by herself, it would feel very alone. So I think being in the city and being immersed in that environment really for my daughter was a big, a good thing. So, and she's been doing some great things at Emerson with her, with her creativity. And so it was a great choice for her. And also I'd say let them have their process, because we know what we want. But they kind of know, and I feel like they also get into the right schools. The schools they get into are the right ones, but let them make a choice. They're the ones that are going to be living there for 4 years. And, it's a big choice, but Emerson has been really, really wonderful for my daughter and us as a family. So, yeah.
That's great. Matt and Terry.
Our son was auditioning for, BFA and theater and performance schools, which is very rigorous and it's arduous, the process. He auditioned for 18 schools, which is pretty much a norm for performing arts majors. And Emerson was always one of the top choices for him because they have such a stellar reputation in the arts. He's also, a lot of arts programs, BFA programs, expect the student to only do that one artistic medium. We went to a lot of schools where they're like, you can't do anything else but act here. If you're in the acting program, that's all you're going to do. And our kid is a Renaissance man. He writes film scripts, he does poetry, he is writing a musical. He wanted a place where he could be all of those things while also pursuing a BFA. So it was the fact that Emerson creates well-rounded artists and well-rounded people that attracted him. It's certainly Boston. A lot of people have talked about that. And also the honors program. I don't know if anybody else has talked about that, or if there's anybody in the chat whose student had gotten into the honors program. That's a big thing for my kiddo too, was the honors program. It invites that kind of academic rigor for a kid who's coming out of an AP or an IB situation like my kiddo was, that gives them that kind of experience of writing a paper and doing deep dives while also being an artist. So I think that's pretty much what it was for us. What do you
Yeah, the
say?
only thing I would add is that he was down to two other choices. One of them was a dream school in California that gave him no money. He got in, but California schools are pretty stingy with East Coasters. But the other one was a big school with a very tiny BFA program that's highly regarded. He was one of 12. They only take 12 kids a year, and they took him. But the entire campus is really geared towards athletics and kind of school spirit that does not really involve the arts. And he's a kid who is, he's LGBTQ, he's on the autism spectrum, he's an innovator, and he felt at home with the people he was meeting at Emerson. And when he shadowed a student at this other school, he liked that student, but he could tell that student didn't feel like he was integrated into the rest of the school, that he was just in this kind of niche program that was part of a much larger school that was very D1 and very sports forward. So Emerson felt like a fit. And like you said, it was raining and it was pouring. And, when we were there for, it was Accepted Students Day, and he was so happy.
He stood in the commons and he goes, I could see myself here. It was a very dramatic moment. But yeah, I think you can get lost in the sauce in a bigger school. And in Emerson, you can find your way. I think Anika was talking about that in these small programs where you're connected with a lot of other artists.
Beautiful job, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the family ambassadors for just being here and doing such a wonderful job representing Emerson College. And I know they threw out some Emerson terms that folks in the audience don't know about yet, like the EVIs. You'll find out. And it's a very exciting thing to learn all of the acronyms that your student will be making over the next several months. I want to just give you a heads up about a couple things you can expect from us from here on in. First of all, there are still admitted student events. There's a program that is happening on the 25th for students interested in the honors program specifically. And we have different webinars and events throughout the next couple of months. So remind your students to keep an eye on their email, and they will be getting invitations to those. We also do a couple of things across the country. We have some summer send-off events, and those are events so students can meet each other in the regions that they're coming from. And we are I think we're hosting 8 or 9 of them this coming summer. So look for those invitations. And you don't have to actually be from that area. If, for example, you're going to be in Atlanta, we have an Atlanta summer send-off coming up. And if you're going to be in Atlanta for whatever reason, we'd love to have you join us. But you'll be getting that invitation also. Over the summer, my office, we run the orientation program, and we will be sending to your students, but also to you, invitations to attend different seminars. Now, we do about 5 of them over the summer that teach you all the nuts and bolts that you need to know to be successfully launching your student at Emerson College. So again, those are things that you can look for. And I also want to mention our Facebook group. There is a very active and very kind Facebook group. It's called Parents and Families of Newly Accepted Students. There were some questions about our residence hall, specifically the little building. On that group, if you join the Facebook group, you will be able to see a video that was done a few years ago when the little building was renovated, and you can see what the bathrooms look like. You can see what a regular triple looks like. You can see what a double looks like. So hopefully you'll be able to join us there. And I would love to just end it by saying We know this is an important decision for your student. I think you've been given some really heartfelt advice from the family ambassadors who are here on this page. So I thank them deeply for their wisdom. And Emerson stands here to help you in any way we can to help your student get over that line and make a decision. And we hope it's at Emerson, but whatever it is, we wish you the very, very best of luck. Thank you all. Good night.